We are live on YouTube. I'm going to start up Zoom and get this broadcast in, and we are good to go. So welcome everybody who is watching on YouTube or is coming in from Zoom and going that route. This is an online session to explore how to create your own virtual design sprint. My name is Robert Scrobe. I'm the owner and operator of Dallas Design Sprints. I have a whole bunch of wonderful professionals and practitioners that are on the panelist side that are going to be participating, and we'll introduce them towards the end of the session. But what we're going to be doing today is going through the process that we're going to be using in the Global Virtual Design Sprint to basically build out custom build design sprint processes. Now, the reason why we're doing this is because we had a lot of requests in November to take what the 4 and 5 day default design sprint was and to either modify it, change it, make it shorter, make it more meaningful. So this is a way of addressing that need. And we're going to be showing you exactly how we're going to be going about it in May. We might change it based on the results of this, depending on how fluid or how confused people are. But the whole point of doing this is to illustrate a custom process and see how everyone on the panelist side here take to it. So we'll get right into it. What I'll do on my end is I'll share my screen out for everyone to see in YouTube and in Zoom. Everyone who is part of the panelist side will be basically seeing this as well, but they'll primarily be viewing in the mural. And once I start sharing my screen, I will go over each section and the process we'll be using in today's session to kind of go through each one. Now, for those of you who are participating and that are on mic, feel free to speak up if you have any questions at any time during this time. I would also request that you mute your microphones just to make sure that we minimize any background noise. I may do that for you at some point, just in case you're concentrating on your work and you forget to mute your microphone, which is no big deal. But basically, that'll be my job as facilitator. So let's get into what we're going to be going over today. And really quick, I'll go ahead and share my screen so people can see what I am talking about. Oh, maybe not that one. It's because I had it maximized, I think. Hang on a minute. Okay. Good. Okay, so everyone on the panelist side, raise your hand if you see something that says GVDS4, create your own virtual design sprint. Just kind of raise your hand if you're on the camera. Hey, all right, cool. All right, let's go through each of these sections, then we can get started. So the first thing we're going to do as part of this 3-part process is to go through the profile of each person that's participating. So we're going to basically document what the person's strengths are, what they enjoy doing professionally. And hang on, let me sum it everyone so you look at the same thing I am. And what they want to get better at. So it's really 3 parts. They put in who they are, what time they think they would have for any particular virtual sprint. It could be, just to answer Keith's question, it could be the first week, second week, or the third week. But the question is more around, if you had a week's time in May, what was your hypothetical schedule that you could basically put in? Like how many hours do you think? This is just basically for reference. But we'll be going through each person's strengths, what they feel they're really good at, what they enjoy doing professionally, and what do they want to get better at? What are some things they want to learn? What are some aspects that they may not, that they're currently interested in or they're currently doing, but they really want to learn more about? And it doesn't have to necessarily be about what they do now, but it could be kind of a exploration to where they may be going. Part 2 is where we're going to be looking at the available challenges that are corresponding to what we do in the GVDS versus what you want to self-elect. So on the left here are 4 sponsored challenges, meaning there's somebody in the Global Virtual Design Sprint that's planning on taking one of these challenges and moving it forward past May into something more meaningful, whether it's an endeavor or a process or a product. And the gray squares over here are going to represent the ideas that the group has, so they'll be able to pick and choose between what's currently being sponsored by people right now and what the group here that assembles would like to kind of take on or consider, and then we're going to vote on which ones we'd like to do. And let me go ahead and lock this picture so that doesn't move. Then after that, we're based on the challenges we vote for. If we have a number of them that we're interested in, or maybe just one, we're going to look at what would be a home run. So if we look at the challenge, what would be an ideal outcome for each of the challenges that we're considering? And we'll vote on those to see where we kind of end up as a group in terms of like a desirable end state. Based on the colors that we choose before, we're going to think of the activities you would like to do in a design sprint. So Keith is yellow. He would basically use this row to basically put in the top 7 activities he'd like to do if he were involved in any design sprint, excuse me, which is a combination of both what he knows today and what he would like to do in the future versus in terms of what he'd like to learn. And then finally, once we document the activities, we're going to transfer them over here to a hypothetical sprint week, pre-sprint, virtual sprint, and post-sprint, so that we're going to basically document the challenge over on the left side. We're going to document the voted outcome on the right. And then the different activities that we've put in here, we're going to basically transfer over to the virtual sprint side. Some of these maybe they don't necessarily all have to come from the left, but this is going to be a way where we start building out what activities we're going to be doing as a group. And then we'll do one last round of voting to see which of those activities we put here we see as the most vital to do in order to produce the outcome that we're after. So that's a quick overview of the process that we're going to be doing today. Does anyone on the call that's a panelist have any questions before we begin? I don't hear a word. So,
Robert?
Yes.
I think Nora doesn't have the link to the mural, and she was wondering if she can somehow get it. I have sent it to you, Nora. I have sent it to you via Slack, but I'm not sure if you've got it. I just
is she trying to get into the mural and the Zoom, or is she in the Zoom now and trying to get into the mural?
I'm not sure if there is a difference between participant and between passive participant, but in the Q&A she said she didn't see the mural, and I answered to her, but she's not able to copy it from there because
okay,
the interface isn't allowed.
I just promoted her to a panelist, so she should be able to come on. And then if that's the case, I can put in the copy again. Nora, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. I just had to step away for just a quick second, but I'm back. Hello. Glad to be here.
Hello.
So let me go ahead and share with you again the link to get into.
I think Mehmet gave it to me.
Okay. If you're seeing a GVDS4 create your own virtual design sprint, then that would be what you would, you'd be in the right place.
Yeah.
Hang on, I'm going to open up the chat because I saw something in there from, so Ming, you asked if this is a hypothetical case. So the 4 gold cards over here on the right, those are all actual challenges that were submitted for the Global Virtual Design Sprint. The hypothetical cases will all be in the gray squares that the participants today will basically be formulating. So that'll be the difference between the two. Let me do a quick check to see who on the left has kind of put in their spot. So just to recap, if you are interested in participating, you want to put your name at over here on the side. Let me go ahead and gather everybody up again. So you want to put your name in the card if there isn't one already, and then put in the hours that you think you'd be available in terms of like a hypothetical virtual design sprint that would happen during the week of May. So it would be combining both offline and online time. It's just basically a reference point. So Aaron's here, Alex is over here, Mike's down below, then it's Andrew, then Carla, Morton, let's see, Mehmet, Nora Scully, Jason is coming in. And Jason, I think I think you're still as a participant, but
yeah, if you have enough, then I could be I could stay a participant, but it's up to
Jason,
you.
good. No, I was just wondering if you were on the panelist side, so no big deal. We're good.
Yeah.
And then Gunnar is taking like hot pink. And I think we got one person who's Ming. Ming is taking the last spot. Okay. So now we got everybody. All the slots are filled, so to speak. So I will start at the top, and then everyone that's below in their color row can follow along. But the first thing we're going to do, and there's really no timeline for this, but this is just to basically follow along, is in your colored row, if you're participating, what you want to do is go to this first section in terms of your strengths. and put at least your top 6 that you think it. So your strengths can be both soft skills and hard skills. So they can be, maybe you're really good at designing a web flow, could be like an applied skill. Or you could say that you facilitate very well is another skill that you have. Something that you feel is like your strength, or that you're very, very good at empathy. But when you think of those, go ahead and double click on a card that's in your row that corresponds to your name, and type out what you think your soft skill or your strength is, so to speak. So I would take a guess as to Keith's strength is that he's super strong, like a Super Saiyan. I'm just joking, but that's basically something that he could put in for his particular strength. This is just for your own reference. We're not going to be using this in terms of like future activities, but this is just to kind of summarize what you feel are your top strengths that you bring to the table for your virtual sprint. So I'll give like a minute or two for people to kind of fill out that. I'm trying to make sure that everyone that's participating in this is over on the panelist side, and I think I captured everybody. I think. So far, everyone's kind of, yeah, some people are going ahead to the second step. So once you get done with your strengths or putting those down, move to the next section of what do you enjoy doing professionally? Things that are satisfying for you from a professional standpoint. They may be something that you're doing now, or maybe something that you're not doing now, but you wish you were doing, but some things that you really find happiness in, and put those in those boxes in the middle section. And sometimes it's good to look at your strengths as kind of like a reference point too. If you finish that second section, then the third one is going to be, what do you want to get better at? So that may be the things you're currently doing now, or it could be some things that you don't have any idea how to do, but you would really, really like to know more about. That's where you would probably articulate those in the third section under what do you want to get better at. So once you finish all 3 of those sections, I'll kind of zoom out a little bit so I can see what everyone's doing. When we get close to finishing up, then I'll kind of guide the group towards kind of defining certain ones you want to move forward with. And I'll give everyone about, just to give a little bit of a frame reference, I'll give everybody 3 minutes to kind of fill all this stuff out. If you need more time, just come on mic and let me know. And for those of you observing, the reason why we're going into the profile of each practitioner is to get an idea of what everyone's about, what they're really good at, and what they want to get better at. This is not only for people to understand in terms of, like, say, a facilitator, to understand the people that are in the sprint, but also for the practitioner themselves to visually take a look at everything they consider about themselves and look at it objectively, so that it's a frame of reference when we start going into what kind of challenges we want to do and what do they want to self-elect in terms of their activities. Looks like everything's coming along. And again, for reference, none of these things that are in these 3 boxes are things that other people on the call are going to be, your fellow participants are going to be looking at. This is going to be from a point of reference for yourself. And I'll kind of go and zoom into what Alex is doing, because this will be the step that you probably want to do next, is that once you kind of fill in your areas for your strengths and what you enjoy doing professionally, you'll want to put a border around particular things that you want to highlight in terms of your main strengths, what you really enjoy doing professionally in contrast to the other things. The easy way to do it is just basically, I'll go to Erin's one. Just basically select something in the strengths, like say in-person facilitation is something that she feels that it's one of her top strengths. In the submenu that comes up in Mural, there's, I think it's about 7 squares down, there's a little icon that says border. I'm showing here in the shared screen. You click on that and a border will appear around the card that you're considering. So for each of those sections, put a border on one or two of those that signify your top strengths, what you're doing, enjoy doing professionally the most, and what do you want to get better at more so than anything else. So that would be after you finish all 3 sections. And don't worry about the time. I think Keith's still working on his stuff professionally. Yeah, I think we're coming along. We're good. Once about 3/4 of everyone has gotten past or have completed this particular exercise, we'll move on to the next one. So far, I think we're about halfway there. Look like Carla's wrapping up. Let's see here. Andrew's probably getting close to being done. Mike's nearly there. Alex is taking a drink probably. He's doing well. Yeah, we're a little over halfway there. For those of you on YouTube, or if you're observing on Zoom, feel free to pipe in some questions you would have about the process or anything you're seeing here to clarify your understanding. We usually will answer those questions in between each step that we're going to be doing today, and I'll try to answer it the best I can. Okay. Doing pretty good. It looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Got 4 done. Getting there. So Americo asked if the board will be made accessible and available later. Yes, it will. So absolutely. Although I neglected to make a copy of this, so I think I better do that before I get too far into this and have to redo part of it. So for those of you, I'm going to pause the share really fast and make a template really quick, or make a copy. Okay. And thank you, Roger. I have other backgrounds I can use in virtual. In fact, I'll switch it out just for the fun of it. For those of you who are done and waiting for the others, you're more than welcome to kind of look at what other people have put in for their strengths and what they do professionally, just to get a contrast. It's always nice to see what other people are like, and in a way, it's a different type of introduction to the people that you'll be working with today, and understanding what they're all about and what they tend to do for a living. By the way, one of the things that I'll do at the end of this is for everyone that participated today, I'll include their LinkedIn profile. So if you want to do some after session networking, that'll be available to you within the next 24 or so. So Morton, I know you want to improve on 5 things, but try to narrow it down to 1 or 2. I know that not all, just for the sake of the exercise. I'm really happy you want to improve yourself that much, but just 1 or 2.
All right. Yeah, I didn't know how much you were supposed to put in, so I'm going to do that.
That's okay.
Robert, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. How I have this bar in front of every time I'm trying to write. How do I get rid of it? It's giving me different options from changing the font, using a bold. Is there any way to move it?
Usually it just appears right above the card that you're selecting. If you deselect the card or go to the right or left, it should disappear. If it's blocking you from actually doing the card, you can try zooming in or zooming out and seeing if that contextual bar is in a better place.
Okay. So let's go back and try that.
Okay. I think we're pretty good. Keith's wrapping up in terms of figuring out what he wants to improve on. Carla's cursing under her breath on mural and getting her a bar that's supposed to be there.
I'll turn it off.
Okay. Let's see. Nora, did you want to select particular things in your block that you want to, that are your top strengths, what you want to do professionally, what you want to do better at?
I thought it was just what we wanted to improve on, but I can definitely pick a couple of those. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, just put borders on a couple of them. It'd be good to kind of highlight the ones that you want to emphasize in terms of your improvement, or what you think are your greatest strengths. Same thing with you, Gunnar. If you want to put in a couple of borders around particular things that are your strengths, things that you want to do most often professionally and what you want to get better at the most, then that would work. But I think outside of that, we are good to go. Yep. Okay. Right. So while people are kind of putting the finishing touches on what they're doing, so for reference, this is for each of you that are participating, this is going to be something you're going to fall back on in part 3. So I'm not necessarily going to copy everything over to the right. This is going to be for your own perspective, because this is going to color how you're going to interpret your participation in a virtual design sprint. So just keep all this in mind as a kind of a palette of a perspective for yourself. And we're going to move on to part 2 and choosing your own adventure. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the space here and bring everybody around. So the way this part works is that like I said, there are 4 challenges right here that are already sponsored by someone or some company that want to take what we're going to be doing in the virtual design sprint in May and carrying it forward into something meaningful, meaning that it's going to have life after the sprint. However,
hello, so sorry that I'm joining late.
Gia.
Hey. Hi. I will mute myself again. Just wanted to say hi.
Okay. No, I'm used to it, Gia. It's whether it's a train or it's an earthquake or it's some natural disaster that happens, or it just happens to be that transportation wasn't available. I'm usually confident that eventually you'll come. So it's fine.
Yeah, I know. But I'm here ready to learn.
Okay. So just for reference, we're on part 2. So we just went through part 1 where we had everyone put their profile professionally in terms of their strengths, what they want to learn, and what they do really well. Now we're basically going to go into basically thinking of some challenges that would be really interesting for us to do as a group. So we have the 4 here that are already preset for us. This is just for reference. But on the right here, there's a limited amount of gray squares that you can put in for challenges. In fact, I'm going to open it up just a little bit because we have a lot of people. So I'm going to put one more row down here at the very bottom. And what you're going to do is basically choose a colored square, like a colored gray square, and double click on it. And basically put in something that you think would be really interesting to pursue as a challenge or idea. It can range from anything and everything that you want to do, but just make sure that it's really fascinating, interesting, bold, like just something that if you were to find a solution for, it would be amazing. But something that really does interest you personally. Okay, so it has to come from you, and in terms of like something that's amazing. So go ahead and double click on any of the cards to put in a challenge that or an idea that you would like to pursue in a virtual design sprint with a group of people internationally from around the world. That's what you should do in the next 2 to 3 minutes. And it's just the gray cards.
Okay, can you send me the link to the mural board? I
Yep.
didn't see it in the calendar.
No problem.
And
Thank
that's
you.
HMW concept, Robert? Is that how we're framing
You can
it?
use how might we if you want, or you can just basically state the idea or challenge plainly. It's open-ended, so you can do it either way. Come. And by the way, this is my son who's home. He's on spring break, so he's occasionally going to come in and say hi and hello. So, hi.
14 minutes into VR camp.
Yeah, that's right. 14 minutes into virtual reality camp.
What's up, dude?
So go ahead and go downstairs and start reading. And then when Mama comes home, she'll take care of you, okay? All right. Yep. And Roger, he takes that full advantage of that. Trust me. And I'll give about 3 minutes for this. Let's put a timer on it. Now, just for reference, for those of you who weren't able to claim a spot on the left, these activities in part 2 are things that you can still participate in. It's just that part 3 is probably going to be more applicable to the people that have spots from part 1. So if you're on the sidelines and you're a panelist, like Gia's come in, and you want to participate in this activity as well as the one for the home run down below, feel free to go ahead and put in your challenge with the remaining cards that are left, just so that you don't feel like you're kind of sitting on your hands, because that's uncomfortable. Especially on wooden chairs. Okay, we got about a minute left. We have about 3 gray squares left. Again, think of something that you would personally want to pursue that's bold, adventurous, interesting, would be amazing if you could find a solution or something interesting, and kind of go down that route. It's like that one gray square is like the last piece of pizza. Nobody wants to eat it, but they all want to be gracious about it. So somebody click on that thing. 10 seconds left. If you have your thoughts, please type them out or finish them up. And once you're done, just click anywhere outside the gray box to deselect the box so that it's captured. Okay. So now what we're going to do is go through a voting session. Now, if you've never done this in Mural, it's fairly simple. We're going to be voting on which particular challenge we would like to put forward into a virtual design sprint. Now you have your 4 curated ones over here that have already been kind of pre-vetted out, but then you have your set over here that are all in gray squares that you could also choose from. Everyone is going to get 10 votes, so you can choose up to 10 challenges. We're going to pick the top 2, 3, or 4 that come out in the votes and bring them into the below section where we're going to explore outcomes for each. Whoever is I think it's the hippo, the anonymous hippo, you have a card there that says, how might we create a worldwide automated business system for small biz? You probably need to deselect that in order if you want that to include that in votes. If you've already deselected it, then it's probably on my side where Mural may be lagging a bit. But I'm about to go into a voting session, so there you go, perfect. Okay, so I'll start the votes. Everyone who is currently in the mural will have 10 votes to work with. Again, vote on either the gold cards on the left or the gray cards on the right. And I'm just going to call this challenge. Go ahead and place your votes where you'd like. You can click on a card to vote on it. You can hold down shift and then click on a card to remove your vote. And no one's going to be able to see your cursor or what you're voting on. I also will not be voting. If anyone I see in this list here is stuck at 10 votes by the time the majority finishes, then we'll move forward and see what the voting kind of comes out to be. In the meantime, if you're looking at the screen share, I'm going to go into a little bit of like live call and see who will come out on top in terms of the first 3 that finish. So far, there's an owl and a lobster and a bunch of 5 votes. But the votes are coming off pretty fast. A fast click. Mike is in front of all the anonymous ones as he's finishing up things. Alex is right next to him. Oh, Alex has only got 1 left. And Owl's vying for 2nd place. Mike's in 3rd, along with the bird. And Alex crosses the finish line for 1st place, putting all his votes in. The Owl's coming up right around 2nd, with the bird in 3rd. And it's the owl that comes in 2nd. And let's see, between Mike and a bird, who comes in? It's the bird. So it's the final 3 is Alex and a couple of anonymous flight birds. Oh, I lost it. I'll just let it be and be quiet and let the rest of the votes go in. Okay. Looks like we have about 6 anonymous. Oh, I was going to say, no, we have 5. 5 anonymous animals that are not voting along with me. The hippo, the cat, the pig, gorilla, and the ram are all sitting on the sidelines. Well, maybe not. Now it's down to 4 that haven't voted yet. And for reference, sometimes it's good to kind of take a couple of minutes to look at duplicates. I like to not to do them this time for the sake of kind of getting through the exercise and having some time for discussion. But normally when it comes to kind of looking at a lot of options, you would want to consider the possibility of doing some diagramming to kind of work everything out and put things in categories, as well as identify particular cards that are very similar in nature. So we just have a ladybug and a shark and a giraffe left for voting. Once those are kind of spent up, then we'll get to looking at the results.
I have some votes left, Robert, but I'm good.
Okay. I would take it that's the shark that just talked?
No, I am the, let me see.
Okay.
I'm the giraffe.
You're a very fine looking giraffe online. that works. Okay, so I will, oop, I might just switch to vote real fast. Okay, this is a 10-second warning before I end the voting session. If you need more time, get off mic and let me know, or get on mic and let me know. Otherwise, I will count down to 3, 2, 1. Well, and the cat just voted. All right, now I gotta wait for the cat. That was quick. Right when I'm about to end, it's like, oh, the cat. Da, 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 da. So now, cat's putting their votes down on where they like to put things. So we'll wait about 30 more seconds. Cat removing some votes. Cat removing more votes. All right, anonymous cat, you've got 10 seconds. You put all your votes up. All right. Oh, no, now the shark's moving. You guys. 3, 2, 1. Whoa, that was fast. Shark didn't waste any time. All right. Going once, going twice. About the end of the voting session, and let's see how everything ended up. So we have, looks like we have 3, but there's one that actually had one person put 4 votes on. So that's kind of skewed a bit. In terms of like unique voters, that usually gives a better indication of where things are. 8 votes shows like real profound interest in by one person. But what we're going to do is we're going to take the building up a culture of remote working. How might we increase mental health awareness in corporate environments? And how might we unpack social impact of sexual wellness and women's health as 3, if we do a 4th, between the 4th, I'll go ahead and help everyone understand that everyone in the world is human and where there's blah, 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 blah. Okay, so we'll do both. We'll do 4. So give me a minute. I'm just going to do some transferring really fast and put these into their logical spots down below. Let's see here. Okay. So normally we would only have 1 or 2 challenges, but just for fun, we're going to kind of expand upon this a bit just to give room and hopefully allow everyone to participate. So let me bring everybody down in this section over here. And hang on. Okay. So the way this works down below is that this basically proposes what would be a home run for these particular challenges. So if the best case scenario for each of these would be one of 9 different boxes here. So if we take on how might we increase mental health awareness in corporate environments, which is speculating on the question, if we were to think of the outcome, like the actual outcome of this in terms of like what we think is the solution, but also like the end result, that's what you want to put here. So we're skipping a step for those of you who are normally used to LGJs. We're going straight to like what the outcome would be in terms of like an amazing outcome for this particular consideration. Same with building up a culture of remote working. I would say like an amazing outcome of that would be where remote working is considered the de facto standard, so to speak. If we were to kind of like project this out like 6 months to a year or something like that, if this challenge were realized in your mind, what would be the ideal outcome? So go ahead and give this a shot. You can pick any one of these. You can pick any one of the particular challenges, but go ahead and double click on a blue card here and think of an ideal outcome for these particular challenges. Then again, the blue cards will correspond to the challenge that they're associated with. So for like say unpacking social impact of sexual awareness and women's health, the 9 blue cards would correspond to that one. So we're going to take 3 minutes to do this. If you have any questions about it, do ask. But this is just to
Robert.
Yes.
I can't click in. I have since we voted, the voting results are still here, preventing me from doing anything anymore.
Is there an X at the upper right-hand side of the results? Do you see like an X at the upper right-hand side of the corner, or of the corner of the
No,
screen?
I have my other screen. My other screen is on the top. No, I don't have an X.
Try refreshing the page to see if that screen goes away, or if you come back.
Okay. Yep. Oh, now I'm really gone. Okay. Oh man. Robert?
Mm-hmm.
I'm now being asked to go back in as a anonymous gorilla.
That's fine.
It's fine, and I should
Yeah.
just enter anonymous. Oh, okay.
Yeah, each time, if you're anonymous, each time you go back in, you get to be a different animal.
That's kind of cool. Okay. Got it. I'm back in.
I'm also going to do an audible, and I'm going to change the fourth one instead of the one that was there, because there doesn't seem to be much activity around it. I'm going to say, how might we support people to deal with the coronavirus better? No offense to the one that was there before. I sensed hesitation with trying to address it. So let's see if this one on with the coronavirus tends to be one that we can move, do better with. I'll add one more minute. We're doing pretty good on time. Yes, Lauren, we will be adding the end state to answer your question.
You talking to me, Robert?
Oh no, sorry, it was Lauren that was asking a question about what the end state is going to be. We're taking our first stab at it, but I'm going to showcase that it can change. Okay, so I think we've got all of the cards covered at this point. We'll do one more round of voting, and then we'll go into the last part of this. After voting, if you want to get up and stretch your legs or go get something to drink, you're more than welcome to do so. And because there'll be a time where we'll work for about 15 minutes straight. And since we've been kind of concentrating for about 50 minutes, I'd like to give everybody a breather if we need it.
Robert, I have a question for you. It's interesting, for me, because the sexual wellness is my thing. My ideas were more about planning. And it's really interesting. I stopped writing those things because then other people were writing ideas. So is this about ideas we might take forward, or the idea that we think if we took forward would be effective? Do you know what between planning, making a GVDS successful as opposed to a challenge statement. I may have misunderstood what I was supposed to do.
So this entire exercise in part 2 is to provide a framework for what part 3 is supposed to be, which is actually building out the sprint. The assumption going into the Global Virtual Design Sprint is that the challenges are going to be something that will have like foundation, meaning they'll have proper research, they'll have discussion around them. The team will be well informed around what the challenge is, so that when it comes to actually building out the sprint, you're much more targeted around getting to the outcome that you're after. I'm only doing part 2 to showcase that you kind of need a framework or a structure or a challenge to kind of focus on, to kind of build out that customized design sprint process. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes. Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. And again, if my directions need to be a little bit more succinct with this, then that's the whole point of this online session, is that I'm testing to see what the first pass is of this process and where it could improve, so that when we actually execute it in April, I'm a lot more educated on what people are expecting. At least that's the intent. So with voting, this next voting round, we're going to get 3 votes. You're going to vote on 3 votes for each section. So it's going to be 12 altogether. So if you're looking at how might we increase mental health awareness in corporate environments, you have 3 votes to put on any of the 9 that are here. Same thing with building up a culture of remote working. Use 3 of your votes in these 9 blue boxes over here. So you'll have 12 altogether, but spend 3 on each particular challenge and their proposed end states, or what would be like an ideal outcome from doing the challenge. Okay. If you have any questions about that, do let me know. But everyone will start with 12 votes, 3 votes for each section. We'll call it outcomes. Everyone on the mural will be able to vote. Do not vote on the challenge itself. You can click on a card to vote, shift click to remove it. And remember, your votes are anonymous. You won't be able to know who you are or what you voted on. But again, 3 votes on each of the particular challenges.
Robert, just to be clear, we're only clicking on the yellow ones?
No, you're clicking on the blue cards.
Oh, the blue cards. That's what I thought. Okay.
Yeah. So for each section, you want to click on 3 blue cards that correspond to what you feel would be the ideal end state or outcome for the challenge that's associated with.
Got it. Okay.
I may have misspoken. I'm getting my goal.
No, you didn't. I just wasn't listening very well.
Not your fault, Jason. I know you're an excellent listener.
I did put that as my strength. I might be lying to myself.
Well, did you put it in the area that you want to learn more from, or that you think you're professionally very good at?
I think that I'm professionally very good at.
Well, it is being recorded, Jason. So
yeah, there you go.
Someday you'll have to answer to it, but I think you'll be okay.
I think I'll be okay.
For those of you who are putting in some questions in the Q&A, for some reason, when I'm using Zoom to share my screen, the Q&A does not allow me to. I'm not allowed to see the Q&A panel, and I don't know why. It could be because I have full screen enabled on my Mac, but I don't know.
I can see it.
I can't see it either. So
I can see it, and I could actually read it if that would be okay.
Go for it, Alex.
So
I've been answering some questions in there, Robert.
Sherry is asking, how long did it take you to ideate and set up this board beforehand? And approximately how long would you expect to take someone brand new to virtual sprints? Thanks.
So this board took me 40 minutes to create, but I also leveraged some previous boards that I created before. In terms of creating a board for a virtual sprint, meaning that you would customize the boards for activities, I would probably give yourself, also depend on your aptitude with Mural or Miro, either way, or some other whiteboarding tool. I would give yourself a good, in terms of hours, it's tricky. I would say probably give yourself a good 2 days, like 2 hours one day and 2 hours the next, maybe a kind of a brush up session the next. Once you get the hang of kind of creating these, they're not too hard to bring together. With Mural, you have to make a proper handshake between putting too much on the Mural and putting the right stuff on there, because Mural sometimes has performance issues, especially with people with lower bandwidth or lower processor computers. With Miro, the consideration is that it gets too messy because their UI tends to be really, unless you know the metaphors to use, in the visual metaphors when creating those boards, it can tend to be really, really busy. But those are the only considerations. Usually, I'd say for pros, people that know this stuff, you can create boards for the virtual design sprint in under a day. For those that are just starting out, I would give yourself 2 or 3 days to learn it, as well as to get some templates in there and to understand the tool.
Scott is asking, will this be recorded so I can go back and watch the video?
If you signed up through Zoom, you'll have on-demand video available to you for the next 3 months. If you didn't sign up and you're joining this through a different link, or you're watching this on YouTube, the recording will stay on YouTube, and that's in the Dallas Design Sprints YouTube channel. So that'll be available there.
There is another one. It appears that you do not know who the anonymous people are as a facilitator. Is that correct? And do you prefer knowing who your participants are or not?
My own personal preference is that I don't want to know who they are. Because part of the fun about projecting out virtual animals is that you can play with that notion. But I also find that people feel like they have their ability to remain anonymous sometimes helps them be a little bit more explicit or honest with their answers. And if people want to self-declare, they usually can just go off mic and say what they're thinking about. Chances are, I mean, the fear is always that somebody will be disruptive who's anonymous, but I have never run into that personally.
I think there are other questions.
Okay. So it looks like voting has stopped, at least from my panel. I'll give it 10 seconds. If I don't see any movement, then I'll end the voting session. I won't count down. I'll do like a going once, going twice. Oh, there was some. There's one left. Okay. Going once. Going twice. If you want to still vote, make some activity. Put a vote down or something. Otherwise, I will close out the voting and leave it at that. And here we go. Let's see what kind of transpired. Okay, so we definitely have some clear votes here. So it looks like let's kind of, I'll get out of the results here and kind of look at it from a visual perspective. So in terms of how might we increase mental health and awareness in corporate environments, it looks like there's 2 that are kind of in the same space. So I'm going to put some borders here just to kind of reflect what the voting results were. Then there was one down here where it was definitely for the unpack social impact of sexual awareness on women's health, where that one really was a front runner. The global conversation around sexual, I got to take the votes off to see them. Sexual wellness and importance to overall health. Over here, I'm building up a culture of remote working. It looks like the one that came out was people are as productive and enjoy working remotely as much as working in the office. So we'll go ahead and put a border on that one. And finally, for how might we support people to deal with the coronavirus, it looks like people can decipher between fact and fiction as it relates to spread and prevention. So we'll go ahead and highlight that one. Okay, so if you'd like to take a 5-minute break and get up and stretch your legs, go for it. I'm going to do a little bit of maintenance on the board and come back in this time, and then we'll wrap up with the final activity. If you want to stick around and don't feel like taking a break and want to continue moving forward, then the next step you can do is to capture some of the activities you'd like to do in a design sprint. If you notice, they're colored in bands, so those colors should correspond to who you are. So I believe yellow was Kevin originally. Kevin's going to basically put down top 7 activities he'd like to do in a design sprint, referencing back over to his palette over here, where he said that he enjoys facilitating and he enjoys doing user research. So perhaps corresponding to his strengths, he would put some things over here that would correspond to facilitation. So if he is in a design sprint, say like facilitating or co-facilitating, let's say, if that's his desire to do so. So there's that possibility. But he's going to put in 6 activities that he'd like to do as part of user research and facilitation for his involvement in a let's do a virtual design sprint rather than a design sprint. Let me unlock this.
It's Keith, by the way.
Oh, Keith, sorry.
No problem.
My fault.
It's a common mistake.
Virtual DS. Okay,
bathroom break.
So yeah, take a break if you'd like. Otherwise, if you want to stick around, go ahead and find your color corresponding where you were before. If it helps you, like I did with Keith, not Kevin, you can put in the name first in the left, and then put in the 6 activities you want. If that helps you kind of gauge where you are. But I will kind of call everyone together. See, it's 12:33. Let's say 12:36 my time, so 36 after the hour. But you can do the activity, or you can get up and stretch. Anyway.
Who's the hacker in the background? Mehmet?
Nope. We're good.
I'm on mute.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry that I was suspicious about you.
Mehmet's a hacker? That would be a shock to me. Although, he's quite versatile with facilitation. Who knows what else he does on the weekends? He's a smart person. That's what I'm trying to convey. Okay, so let's see here. I'm going to just kind of track a little bit. Who do you got on the blue side? That would be Mike. So I'm going to put Mike's name over in the blue side over here. Right there. And then who is hot pink? I think that is, which person are we at? Hot pink is Gunner. Gonna say the name right. Okay. Okay. So as we're kind of, for those of you who are continuing to work rather than take a break, so it looks like we've got some activities that you have here, like that you'd like to do in a design sprint. So what we're going to do with this is you're going to consider what's on the left for yourself, kind of like your palette of things that you like to do as part of like this process. You're going to go over here to the right where it says, which activities would you like to do to achieve your desired outcome? Now, right now, everything in the gray is locked for the time being. What you're going to do is take and copy the cards that you just created over on the left and bring them over to the right and put them in a place where you think they fit. So let's take, for example, what Keith is doing over here with co-facilitation. So if he's going to be doing co-facilitation, probably what he wants to do is in the actual virtual sprint itself, something where he's putting co-facilitation in Monday through Wednesday through Friday, and that corresponds to what he does. And maybe there for other things, for icebreakers, he'd like to do those as part of the co-facilitation. So instead of co-facilitation, he puts it on Monday. So I'm just going to illustrate this. So let's say for him, he's going to put icebreakers down here on Monday, which is something he wants to do, and just puts it right over the gray square here. But this color corresponds to what he does. Now, if you find that you want to articulate this better in terms of the activity that would help get to the outcome on the right, you can change this. You don't necessarily have to keep what you put on the left. That's just for a reference in terms of your activities. But you can change this on Monday to say for icebreakers, you could say, what is everyone wearing on their feet, and then call it an icebreaker in parentheses. So you can actually articulate it better. So this space here is essentially made to put in the activities you want to do pre-sprint, the activities you want to do in the virtual sprint during the week, and the activities you want to do post-sprint, all kind of leading to the outcome that's leading over here on the right. This is to say that the activities you're going to be doing in the virtual sprint would lead the team that you're going to be a part of to have more clarity around how to get to this outcome or where to get this outcome. So it can be traditional design sprint activities such as the 4-step sketch, the sticky solution, the sticky decision. It can be drawing a map, anything like that. But when, instead of kind of going straight from the blueprint, we're taking what people do best or what they like to do and finding a spot for that first within the activities they would do during the week. Okay, if that makes sense. Now, it may seem a little strange to kind of put in like something that's more high level, like visual communication. But again, if you have something like a card like this, how does that interpret in this particular point? So it's still your color, but on visual communication, maybe on Tuesday, you're part of solution sketching, or you're doing something that corresponds to visual communication in that right. You just keep your color and you put that into an activity that's going to be for this particular sprint. So what we're looking at right now is the challenge is how might we unpack social impact of sexual awareness of women's health? And I'll bring everybody over just so you know we're looking at this spot. You're going to be putting in the activities that you yourself would like to do pre-sprint, the virtual sprint, and post-sprint based on what you had written or put in your digital cards to the left, all kind of leading towards the outcome that we had voted on in the part 2 exercise. Don't worry about getting this right. This is not about right or wrong. This is an exploration on what you yourself would like to commit to or be part of when it comes to doing a virtual sprint. So give it a shot, at least for this first part here. Again, don't worry about getting it right. All we're really doing is seeing where your involvement or where you may lead kind of comes into play. And again, ask questions, because we did this for the art sprint and there were some questions around how activities map to outcomes, and we addressed those. This is taking it one step further by tying in the individual or the professional to the activity itself within the virtual sprint. And
Robert, people choosing the challenge they would like to work on and working through that, because I see there's several challenges listed, and a lot of people are working up in the impact on sexual wellness. And so is that where people really want to work, or do they want to, do you know what I mean?
We're starting with that one. So that's
okay.
We're just starting at the top, and then we're going to kind of go from there. I'm going to ungroup part of these, so I'm going to start moving them down so that people can get a little bit more breathing room. Just give me a minute. Bring this down a tad. And some of these can be duplicated across all of these sprints, but you may approach it differently based on the topic. What I'm attempting to do is to kind of see where those things play out, if there is a difference. So if you're working on the second one, I'm about to move everything downward. Give the one at the top of the room, top border room. So, oops, well, not gonna do that. I gotta unlock this one first. And bring that down. So if you're working on the second area, the challenge for building up a culture of remote working, just pause just for a second while I highlight everything and bring this down so I can give people that are working on the first one a little bit more room. And good. Go for it. You can go back to what you were doing. I'm going to go ahead and move the third one down a little bit lower. And I'll come to the questions that I've been seeing in the chat. So hang on one second. So Andy goes, well, it would be interesting to hear why someone chose one activity over another for the given topic. Yeah, we'll get into that in the Q&A in a little bit, Andy. I'm trying to see if we can do that around like the 10 to up to the hour and see if we can go there. What's the reason behind giving people a choice between an activity and a break rather than encouraging them to all just take a break? I had some feedback last time that people were concerned that, well, they didn't want to work a full 90 minutes. They had something they had to take care of. So it was kind of like a nice to offer thing that was from the previous session where people wanted the option of basically like going off and doing something. And for the Zoom Q&A, for some reason it tends to, you can still use it, but I can't really see the Q&A from my vantage point. I just have Alex be like Alex, what do we have today? What questions are you asking? That's kind of where I figure it out.
No more questions, Rob,
okay.
from the Q&A section.
Okay, thank you for that.
So you can't see the Q&A and we can't see the Q&A either. And,
yeah.
Right? Okay.
So if you've finished as kind of looking over like the activities that would go into the first one, you can move down to the second one, which is building up a culture of remote working and addressing that one. Again, using your color to put in where you think you would be able to contribute. And if the first one's pretty much set, I'm going to go in and kind of clean that up a little bit, just so we can kind of look over it. And to Andy's point, be able to do a little bit of Q&A on that.
Robert, I have a question.
Go for it.
I'm having problems using the tool here. So am I dragging my notes over or duplicating them first and then dragging? Or
you can basically duplicate if you want, or you can just copy and paste and then change the wording that's in the particular the card itself.
So I'm having problems, like, I don't know if it's my CPU or what, but I'm having problems with responsiveness. So I can't drag them. Can I edit a gray square directly?
Yeah, you could try. I think they've been released. I think some of them are locked. But if you want to create a new card, you can go to the left, and there should be a kind of like a palette of options. The one that's second from the top, you can basically choose sticky notes there and just drag and drop them into the interface.
Okay.
That should work.
Okay. Thanks.
No problem.
Robert, I'm not sure about what you really like us to do here, because when we work in a sprint, there's a certain pattern that we use in order to achieve certain outcomes and then build with the material that we've created in the phase before.
Mm-hmm.
And here this seems kind of arbitrary. Maybe for the exercise, that's okay, but actually, if we were really doing the sprint here or putting together the order, we'd need to be a lot more consistent about what we're doing.
I agree. And this,
Okay.
again, this is meant to be an exploratory exercise around building out a design sprint that's custom. I wanted to see what people would actually do if they corresponded what they were interested in as well as what they did well into like a virtual design sprint build, because right now it's very open-ended. There isn't really anything that's saying that you can't do this, because this doesn't take into account time constraints. But what it does do is kind of figure out where people map to certain activities. So that's at least the first part. So for the sake of example, since we're about 10 minutes to the hour, let's go up to the first one where it was unpacking the social impact of sexual awareness, sexual wellness on women's health. So let's just take this as an example to kind of like continue on that conversation. So we have a couple of cards here from Green where it's facilitating or co-facilitating would be part of Monday or Tuesday with a virtual sprint. Then we have a bunch of activities that people have put in here that are corresponding to the pre-sprint in terms of appreciative interviews, challenge refinement, design boards, align with sponsors, and so on. So these are things that are deemed important by the people that were part of the build process of looking at this virtual sprint in terms of like what the post-sprint would actually do and so on. So the next step in this, and the final step would be, and again, there would be, we can either do one or two things. We can basically go into discussion around what this looks like and what it means, or we can hold one more round of voting. And the voting is basically to go into what are the most important activities we should probably do as part of the virtual sprint that we're going to be conducting with this particular one. Now, the post sprint is kind of self-explanatory in that there's two there, there's not much to choose from. But we have a lot of different options to basically go with between the pre-sprint and the virtual sprint itself. Obviously, we don't have time to do everything, but if we were to prioritize them based on what we wanted to do, that's where the voting went into it. So what we can do is basically a way of figuring that out is if you're a panelist and in the chat, go ahead and do one of two things. You can either put in vote if you'd like to vote on the most important ones, or if you'd like to emphasize discussion, just write discuss in the chat. So if you're a panelist right now, all you have to do in Zoom is go into the chat window. Usually it's hidden under more and the dots all the way to the right, and you can choose chat at the upper top of it and go ahead and put in the chat whether or not you'd like to either discuss or vote at this point. Either one's going to be valuable, I think, to kind of address what we're seeing here, but go ahead and put discuss or vote either way. And I will not be part of the vote or discuss. All right, so everyone wants to talk about this. All right, so we aren't voting, we're stopping, we're discussing this thing. So to frame up the discussion, essentially we're at a part where the next logical step would be is to take what people have put here in terms of what they would like to do in the virtual sprint and put some emphasis on it, meaning we would prioritize particular activities corresponding to interest as well as available time. So knowing that everyone doesn't have, can't throw away their life to kind of do a virtual sprint, that was what the intention was this, is to get an idea of what people were about or what they wanted to do and then prioritize that. So based on the process so far and what we've done, what would you like to bring up or discuss? And it can be, I can call upon anyone that you like, but if you want to, just come off mic and go ahead and introduce yourself and start a topic for discussion.
Robert, it's Nora.
Hello.
I think it's interesting there is a basic format for a sprint that we follow. And so all those things that need to be in there through the virtual design sprint, looking at that core, I think about that core, that we prototype, on Thursday. But how in that prototyping session would our sprint make that different, And so I think that's interesting for people. I wonder how people in this session are thinking about what they know of the basic structure of a design sprint and what they feel they added that would be different to that structure. And I think that might be what you're getting at in this activity.
Yep, that was essentially it. There are some things that are going to come from the design sprint process that will be included in this, but there are also going to be some things that you normally wouldn't find in a design sprint that would seem to help things out, like abstraction laddering or journey mapping, for example, something that usually isn't there, that you usually use to make a map or something. But what I'm finding in previous endeavors is that what you're seeing here is more the norm. And then it's just a matter of figuring out what we can do during the week that makes sense, that will get us closer to the outcome that we're after. Mm-hmm. Who else has questions? Ming, I know that you said that you wanted to discuss. What's on your mind? And I can bring you off camera, or off camera. I can bring you off mute if you'd like.
Actually, I didn't have anything in particular to this. I'm curious to hear what others have to say or questions.
Okay. Aaron, what are your thoughts on this so far?
Yeah, so I'm a little confused. I think that there's categories of things here that are activities that might be done or conversations that might be had pre or during or post. And then there's roles like facilitation, for example, which is a given throughout the experience, right, of a sprint. So to be candid, I think I'm just confused about what you're looking for. If the desired outcome is a comprehensive schedule of events, I think what would be great to discuss is like, if we're looking at the standard stages of a design sprint, what are virtual events that would make sense in each of those phases?
Okay.
Do you mean like how you're translating from the live sprint to the virtual sprint, Erin? To get people's heads wrapped around that?
I think that's part of it. Like there's, some activities that we would do that may have to be like completely reworked, right? Or maybe there's activities that you would do in a virtual sprint that you wouldn't do in an in-person, which would be like fascinating to unlock and understand and be conversing about.
So this is Alex.
Mm-hmm.
What I found, I agree with Erin that like this thing is, what is the personal role on the one side, so like facilitating or co-facilitating. On the other side, what are the sprint activities that were like, so that what I felt in this exercise were like two directions to drag. And I would like to have that more one thing or the other, and maybe more say, hey, what's the sprint exercises that are done, and not so much the role thing. That is what I understood.
Go ahead.
Maybe. No, that's what I understood, those both things, and I found that were tearing me from one to the other side.
What was really interesting is that this time around, what I attempted to do was to connect the practitioner, professional with the activity or the role. And in contrast to the art sprint, where we basically explored all the activities you would do in a hypothetical process, there's more questions around what the end result of this looks like versus what the art sprint was. The art sprint basically had a bunch of different kind of like just a little laundry list of different kind of activities you could do, but didn't connect those activities to any single person. It was just the idea that it was a menu of options. This, on the other hand, when it connected the people to the activity, it almost feels like it's associating a sort of responsibility or an ownership of the particular item. But does anyone else see that?
It is. Yeah.
Go ahead, Carla.
Sorry, I agree. And that's why I asked that question when I did, because I felt like I was being responsible for the success of the virtual sprint if I by contributing certain types of yeah, let's call them activities at certain times. And I did feel responsible, just like you said. And it wasn't just a menu of different possibilities, but I owned these different steps and felt then a little bit, I wouldn't say confused, but a little bit frustrated because other people were putting other steps in at the same time that I knew would contradict with what I was putting in. So I just kind of thought it wasn't making a whole lot of sense.
Got it.
And that's and also I do agree that there's a mix up between roles, skills, exercises, and steps. And I think I would prefer more clarity in what you're actually looking for as the person that designed this particular exercise, so that for me, I could fulfill that what was asked of me, and maybe the outcomes in this particular for this particular exercise would be clear. But I understand it's also a learning experience, so that's is okay. Yeah. As I understood that it was a type of a sprint, so you, Robert, could see how we react, and that you could learn from this from the design of other sprints. But that would be my feedback, is that as a participant, I need more clarity because I wasn't sure what I should do here.
Yeah, I think what it is that this process jumps the gun, and that people would rather figure out what is like before, what are all the proposed activities. And then after those kind of get formalized and finalized, then people can apply where they feel they could fit, so that they don't feel they're in the middle, stuck in the middle between two different activities that may contrast or conflict with one another. You're really getting the process down first, and then once the process is kind of more complete, then you can get into roles like who's responsible for what, or who would want to take those on, or who would want to be involved with them. So in my attempt to blend both of them at the same time, I think I implied a certain level of responsibility and accountability that you can't do this early without looking at where you're going with things. So it's interesting. It's something where it's almost like the process presumes on what somebody could do versus what they would elect to do on their own afterwards.
I could imagine that you can flip it around as well, that people first choose their role to get this responsibility feeling that obviously some had, and then go ahead and design it from that perspective.
Yeah.
But actually the blending made it complicated for me.
That's true. Yep, I'm getting that. I know we're at time, so does anyone else have any other last minute comments they want to make before we shut down everything?
Yeah, I have one quick comment, and I think one way maybe to look at it is from a map perspective, because a lot of the pre-sprint activities could sort of define what goes on in the actual sprint, right? Looking at it from left to right might be a better way, like in case you are to target something.
Yes.
One last comment. I really liked this exercise actually, because it also showed us on how prototyping on a mural board can look like, and also showed us, okay, well, what kind of structure do we actually expect, and how does this mural fit into it, and what would then be the next steps in order to adjust the mural towards that structure. And I think that was a pretty good demo of how prototyping in a mural could look like.
I think it's a good start, and then it just needs to be refined based on like Carlos' feedback and others on what the end result of the expectation is at the end. So it has like potential. It just needs to be refined. So I think I know where to go with it. Just I have to stop putting the cart before the horse and let the horse kind of go down this road.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, so everyone, thank you very much for participating. I really do appreciate it. If you do have feedback, you're more than happy to come and leave me an email, or you can, find me on LinkedIn and reach me there. For those of you who are watching on Zoom and on YouTube, really appreciate coming by. For those of you who are still on the call, what I normally do is I do a group shot before everyone leaves. So I'm going to stop sharing really fast, and I'm going to go ahead and do an overall gallery shot. So
again, a book or something like that. 1 second.
yeah, hang on. You can do any kind of prop you want.
I'm not even here.
So Americo and Roger and Scott, you can stay offline if you want. The only thing I have different last time is just a screwdriver. What is, and it doesn't even show up my virtual thing unless I put it right in my face. The ghost one did. Man. All right. All right.
Hey, my bunny keeps going in and out.
Yeah, that's okay. The background is, look at the fingers. So the background's not as thing.
Yeah, it's funny because of this background.
Yeah.
Nimet, you had make time the last time also. Are you getting any commission or something?
No.
What? Sorry? That's a minus commission because I tried to cut it.
No. Michael, what are you holding up over there? What is that?
Go off mute. It's a candy jar full of mints.
Okay. The way you had it up there looked like a giant, like crystal kind of thing, but okay, here we go. Put your prop up. You ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate your time. Again, I'm glad. I hope it was good use of your time. If you do have any feedback, do let me know, and enjoy the rest of your week. Okay.
Robert, thanks very much. It was great. Thank you for your time.
Okay.
It was really a really very worthwhile experience, and I'm looking forward to more. Yeah.
Yes.
Great.
There'll be one more next week, and then it's out to getting serious with the GVDS. So everyone, enjoy yourselves. Have a good week. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Don't lose
Bye-bye.
your
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.